Well, hey, y'all. Welcome to the When We Walk podcast, where this is a podcast that we talk about the things we talk about when we take our walks. I'm Shireen.
And I'm Micah.
Let's chat.
All right. So one of our more recent walks wasn't very exciting.
No, it was we took a sad walk.
A sad walk, yeah. A mourning walk.
Yes,
yeah.
we were in mourning.
Yeah, after Georgia's loss.
Very hard loss.
Very hard loss to Bama.
The SEC championship. That was very sad.
Yep. It was a long streak that had come to an end. So we figured, you know what, let's just go walk it off. Let's get some fresh air.
It was dark and cold.
Let's look at Christmas lights.
It was nice.
It was nice, yeah. Sometimes you just
got to walk it out.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the nice things about us doing walks so much is it is like a little tool. It actually is kind of like a tool that we can use when we need to just like talk about something, process something, grieve something that we...
I used to tell Charlie when he came home from school, you need to go take a walk. And he would say, I don't want to take a stupid walk. Right. And I'm like, well, that's what you need. You need a stupid walk.
And you got a good picture one time of him like stomping with
the dog. It's great. And then now I've told him, I think you might need a stupid walk today because it helps. Because he literally, you come back a little more perspective.
I actually think whatever state you're in when you go on a walk, like your walk will elevate wherever you're at. Like if you're a little bit sad or if you're a little bit just like you need fresh air or you're kind of just groggy or whatever, like walks just have a way of like kind of...
It's like a mood booster.
Brightening. Yeah.
A natural mood booster.
Yes, it
God
is.
knew.
Yep.
And we were grieving.
It's a good thing.
And we needed a mood booster.
We did. Yeah. It helps that... we've won 2 national championships.
Right.
So
and we're not.
It takes some of the sting away. But the fact that it was Bama, we have a few Bama fans at our church that might be listening. We love you, but you're the hardest team in the country to lose to.
We've never beat them in the SEC championship ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even after 2 years of being on top, you still feel like Bama just always gets the better of us.
Yeah, so we had to walk that off. It felt good. Looked at Christmas light. Our neighborhood is
it's so great.
It just like filled our cups because it's so beautiful.
Yep.
Over the holidays.
Yeah, we had a great.
Because in the rest of winter, it's just ugly, but it's
fun. It is sad once all the lights go down. Yeah. So we are in week 3 of Advent. Where the theme is joy. Yes. That wasn't a very joy-filled walk. It became joyful by the end of it, but we didn't go outside in a state of joy.
No.
Came back relatively joyful.
Yeah.
So joy. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
My thing is I would guess that most people are not probably living very joyful lives.
You think?
Even Christians. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, do you?
I think we do. I think we strive for it, right? Like I have my red cup, which I would say brings me joy.
Yes, yep.
But it is a cup.
And so we have things in our lives that bring us like moments of joy, but do you feel like most people would say, if you gave them 5 words to describe their life?
Oh, yeah. I doubt people would say joy. I think you're right.
Or describe their emotional state in a given week. Do you think most of them would say joy?
No, I think you're right. I think that's what we're,
maybe some would say happy.
For. Yeah.
Which is related for sure, but
yep.
Joy is not one that I think it's something we all like long for, and it sounds amazing. But
again, in this season, all these things that are like built up for like Jesus, right? Like the coming of Jesus are the things we more deeply long for, right? And joy is one of those.
Yeah, yeah. And so thinking, I just thought of this. So thinking about Jesus coming, I bring you, the angel said, good news. I bring you good news that will bring great joy
to all the world.
To all the world. To all the world.
Yeah.
And in that original context, him coming, it's not hard to like see the contrast of life pre-Jesus and life post-Jesus. Like he came to a suffering people. He came to an oppressed people. He came to a people who had been looking for a savior and a Messiah,
some freedom, some relief from their suffering.
Yeah, I mean, their entire lineage, their entire nation, their culture was all based around the coming of this king who would make all things new and set all things right. So he comes on the scene, and you can kind of the contrast of him bringing the joy and with all that he brought into the world. I think it's like, yeah, of course that makes sense. But in our lives today, I think we live in this, like you just said, I think most people kind of feel like they have moments of joy or a level of happiness. And so the idea of Jesus being the joy of the world,
right,
doesn't always capture people the same way. Because I think for a lot of people, at least here in America, they would say, I'm okay. Unless they're in a really desperate place in life. A lot of people would be like, yeah, I mean, Jesus will add to the joy in my life.
Right.
But I'm already kind of happy
I think that's where maybe we have a misconception of what joy is, the connection of joy and happiness, right? So maybe in kind of our context, in a Western, more affluent part of the world, it is easier to go after the things that bring us happiness, joy, however you want to use that right now, because you can just find it and you can bring it into your life.
Yeah.
And you can feel the thing right away, right?
Yeah.
I can relieve the pressure of whatever the suffering in my current suffering in the moment. I can go get a Starbucks and I can feel a little bit better.
You get a boost. Yep.
Yeah. It makes me feel good right now. And it momentarily takes me out of that place of suffering. It relieves that, right? So I think we have that just around us. And so we don't think about the deeper. So what that I guess really would be is more comfort, or alleviating pain, right? And it's that treat yourself mentality.
Yeah.
Right? That show we love. Where they would always do treat yourself. What is it? Parks and Rec?
Parks and Rec, yeah.
Yes. Yep. I love it. I use that little meme all the time.
Yeah.
So it's that treat yourself mentality that we have because we want to alleviate suffering, and we actually can. I mean, really, we can in our own way, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't alleviate the deeper emotion or feeling. It's just a release of the current pain or situation or, whatever.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's kind of like, we've talked about breathing on this before. Shallow breaths feel like enough, right?
Yeah.
Just...
Have we talked about this?
Not this. In particular, we talked about breathing before, but
okay.
Most people are shallow breathers.
Okay.
They don't really fill their lungs when they breathe. They just kind of take in what they need to get to the next breath.
Right.
And people will tell you, if you spend some time taking some deep breaths throughout your day, it actually does all kinds of things. I've mentioned it before on here. It's one of the primary things my doctor encouraged me to do for brain recovery. 2 minutes a day of deep breathing.
I mean, oxygen is they're finding is one of the best, that's
turns out,
that oxygen tank or whatever.
Yeah.
It turns out.
Yeah. So, but I think it's this, but most people are shallow breathers.
Okay.
They don't even know the benefits to their long-term health, focus, energy, mental health, all of that, to being more of a deep breather, taking some time throughout the day to breathe more deeply. So going back to joy, it's we kind of live in a world where we're taking little shallow breaths all the time.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's a good
You take it's my Starbucks. It's, I'm looking forward to the movie I'm going to go see on Friday night. I'm
going to walk around Target these little and feel better about my life.
Right. And they're not terrible things, looking forward to the next football game for me during football season or whatever, little just moments of happiness, moments
we
of
want to win
gladness.
the SEC championship. That would bring us joy.
Point, yes. But we do kind of settle for lesser things. But in that kind of just shallow breath life, I don't think we ever get in touch with how much we're actually missing out on. And so the idea of Jesus being joy to the world, that should just cause us to like fill up when we realize like, oh my gosh, like we've been saved, we've been delivered, we can be healed, made new, all that. Like that should blow us away more than any other thing on the planet. And it doesn't always, because I think we live shallow breath life, and Jesus came to bring more deep breath life.
So do you think that's why it is hard for us to understand a deeper sense of joy? Because we don't have the depth, we don't want to experience the depth of pain or suffering. I mean, I think the fact that it's joy that is good news for the whole world, right? The rest of the world, majority of the world, lives in a place of a little bit more pain and suffering. We talked about that with the way Kiki talks about how, you know, Westerners versus, you know, the rest of the world, really. And I just wonder if that's part of it, that we're not able to really understand what that means, that Jesus brings this fullness of joy. That even when Paul talks about, I can rejoice in all circumstances, right? We don't understand that very deeply. And that's not a bad thing. We live where we live. It's not, you know, it's not like put yourself in a place of suffering.
But it's good to be aware that maybe we have a lot of resources here to mask our need for God, to mask our, you know, the cry of our heart type of a thing.
So being more in touch with, are we trying to mask? And then what does it look like? How do we really settle into this place of deeper joy with the Lord?
Yeah.
And how do we find it?
Yeah, well, I think maybe the first thing is recognizing what it is, like what's on offer from Jesus to us, which is true joy, which just thinking about, I kind of did a little research on it.
Okay.
Of course you did. And, you know, the description I read, I thought was really helpful from like a theological dictionary or whatever, was talking about it's related to gladness. It's related to happiness.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that, because I always hear people say it's not happiness. It's more than happiness. I'm like, yeah, but it is also happiness.
It's also that, yeah. So I think...
I mean, when we talk about being joyful, you want to think about like smiling, laughing, things you enjoy. Yeah,
well, one of the thoughts places that my mind often goes when I think of happiness is the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the meek, blessed are the poor, those types of well, that word blessed is... happy will be the meek. Happy will be the poor.
Oh, yeah.
So Jesus wasn't anti-happy.
No, he wasn't.
No. But joy is the distinguishing, I think, characteristic between like happiness and joy. Happiness is an emotion. And I loved how this little dictionary described it. But joy is a state of being.
Oh, that's
so
good.
Happiness is an emotion. It's not like God doesn't want you to be happy. But happiness is often very much tied to your circumstances, where joy is more than an emotion. It's deeper than an emotion. It's a state of being that is not necessarily determined by your circumstances, but it's actually determined by the promises and the inheritance that you now have access to as a follower of Jesus.
Oh, man.
Like ultimately, that was the New Testament testimony in the early church, was despite our suffering, despite how the world is responding to us, despite what we're going through, we have joy. Yeah. And it was all rooted in what Jesus had done and what he promised would be coming.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, so you said something that made me think of how many times we have heard people say, especially followers of Jesus, who say, but or not, doesn't God want me to be happy? Doesn't God want me to be happy? So that would mean, like, and usually people who say it are like wanting to either one, do their own thing and like be justified in it because it makes them happy. And that must mean that God would want me to be in this state. But so what that does is like kind of we have to change our perspective of, it's not about our happiness and actually what brings me joy. It is who God is and what he did that brings me joy.
Yeah.
Does that make
it does. Does that make sense? It does. And you can think about it in layers. Like if happiness is the emotion, happiness is the outer layer. Well, what is that tied to? Is it tied to my Starbucks, or is it tied to something deeper? It's tied to my joy, which is my state of being, which is tied to Jesus.
And it's who Jesus is and
yeah.
what he brings, not even necessarily what he does for me.
Right. Yeah.
Because that statement of, does God want me to be happy, could go like, well, then he should give me this. My life should look like this because that would make me happy. And that, I mean, that's like a genie in a bottle situation.
It is,
That's not looking at joy, happiness in connection to who God is.
Right. Yeah. But once you do have it there, God is unchanging. His promises are unchanging. And so with it being joy coming in the Christmas season, Advent, talking about the arrival of Jesus, both the first coming and the second coming and the third coming, which is the coming into our lives. Like if joy is...
Wait, unpack that real quick, because I don't think we've talked about that here.
No.
You preached on it.
Yeah, so Advent recognizes three
So the first
comings or arrivals.
Jesus coming the first time.
Yep. The coming of redemption, Jesus coming the first time.
Okay. Second coming.
The coming of glory, or the coming in glory, Jesus coming the second time.
Okay.
And then Jesus, the coming of holiness, Jesus coming into my life.
Yeah.
So you're at that point inviting the arrivals of Jesus, both past and present, into your current state. Or past and future into your
current
present.
State. Okay. So then how does that connect with joy?
So because if that's where your joy is rooted, literally everything is covered.
That's true.
Like Jesus coming for the first time declares to us we can be saved, we can be delivered, we can be healed in this life, we can be forgiven, we can be set free. I mean, the list goes on and on.
And that's already done, and we're on the other side of that. So that
we have access to
that
all
was
of that.
that isn't enough.
Yep. And then it covers our future.
Yep.
It covers, but where does all this lead? And I am just like barely at the beginning. You and I talk about this a lot, but I think we're just both barely at the beginning of trying to grasp what new creation is going to be like, that life beyond this life is more than heaven.
Yep.
Heaven is just kind of a holding place. Paradise, as Scripture calls it, is a holding place.
Podcast and conversation.
Yeah, but eventually, like, heaven comes to earth, that the New Jerusalem comes back. It's a new created order. I was reading some things that John Wesley was saying about it today, even. Like, it's the most perfect expression of everything that already is. It's like everything, he didn't use these words, but getting an upgrade. And,
it's like everything we love, but better.
But better, yeah. And so... and
that's coming.
And all that God made, but better. And so it's a... like if you think about everything, because of Jesus coming the first time, I'm like, if nothing else in my life goes right, I'm saved. I'm in relationship with God. Like there's always hope because he's available and willing and ready to work in my life. But then also, like, where is life going? Like, it's going to be great.
In the end, it will be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
So that kind of like what we talked about a couple weeks ago, the hope is where you can find joy. So like the hope in what he has promised is coming is where we find our joy and are able to stay in that state. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the goal.
To be able to live
we don't live there.
No,
none of us do perfectly. And so Christmas is a great time to kind of re-anchor into these realities that of the significance of Jesus coming the first time and what that offers us now, and the significance of Jesus' promise for his second return and what that gives us hope for in the future. And Christmas is a great time to get that anchored into us. But here's the thing, is in the Christmas season, we can succumb to the faults, the shallow breaths again. We can be the gift, the pie, the
Christmas lights,
little bit extra time off work, whatever,
music,
which are all wonderful things that are meant to be enjoyed, but they are not to be the source of our joy. And I think this is a great time in the year to re-anchor in joy that lasts and is beyond circumstances.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I also think every time we talk about stuff like this, it makes me even more so convinced that Sabbath is God's design, because that is also what you get to do every week.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And that's something you and I have talked about, is one of the things we try to do on our Sabbath practice is like try not to shop or, I try not to be on Instagram and like in head spaces that are pulling me away from being content with where I am. So like Sabbath brings you back to, I'm just going to enjoy the life that I have right now that God has given me, the things that he has placed around me, the people, the home, the nature, whatever state we are in, and just enjoy it and find joy in the things he has for us, contentment, all of that. And then remind yourself who he is. Again, like go back and anchor there so that you start your week again, like refreshed in him. And that does renew like a state of joy, like I think.
Yeah. So one of the like practical things we can do, like Sabbath, I think is a great one. It is a taste of, like it's a taste of heaven. It's a taste of
it's supposed to be
what Jesus came to bring us all within like a little day. And then also what we can do is we can tie the little shallow breath things, the moments of enjoyment, the moments of happiness, when those are tied to Jesus. I think it deepens our sense of appreciation or joy or delight in whatever it is we're enjoying. So your Starbucks, like to even just like the little prayer of like, thanks Jesus for this drink or this beautiful cup or whatever it is about that situation that brings you so much joy. Like I think it's it's just tying those things that it's fine that these things bring a level of happiness. The danger becomes when we begin to think that that is the source of our happiness. But when you recognize those things that come into our lives actually come from a greater source and he's the source of our joy, then it can allow us to kind of more deeply enjoy what we have. And we probably find ourselves more content with what we do have.
I think so.
More grateful for what we do have.
I think so. I think it's just a really good, we just need these resets in these seasons. I think Christmas is one of them. I think Sabbath is a good practice for it because we do, especially just in our culture, are able to kind of find our own, take those shallow breaths and live that way and think we're completely fine. I think that's one of the reasons you and I always loved like traveling overseas and going on mission trips. And when you're around other cultures who live differently and don't have the things you have or whatever, and you're reminded of, wait a second, like that actually isn't what brings me joy in life. And there is joy to be found in so many other ways.
They're so true.
Through the Lord. And not even like, I think what sometimes we can do is look and go, oh my gosh, they must not feel fulfilled because they don't have the things that in our minds bring people joy. But that's not
so true.
That's not even true because our view of what is enjoyable, it's different per culture and time and all the things.
Well, and because joy doesn't necessarily come from those things. I mean, we have some of the most joyful Christians we've ever met have been people from other cultures who they're just full of life. They're full of gratitude because Jesus is just as much their source as he is our source. And in our context, it's more about kind of getting some of the stuff that can get between us and God as our ultimate source of joy, getting some of that stuff out of the way, maybe eliminating it from our life or tying it to God and recognizing these things that we have are actually not what bring me joy. It's the giver of these things.
That's so
that
good.
Actually brings me joy.
And I think that's why when we can hear like Paul's words of joy in all circumstances and consider it great joy when you face trials. Like we do not like that conversation.
No.
But it is true because one, you're becoming more like Jesus. You're having, if you are following him, you're having to lean on him. You're gleaning more from him. You're growing in him. And it is over and over true. When you're in the trial, when you're in the circumstance, when you're in the suffering, it feels like it won't end. And the other side, you can't even imagine what's on the other side because you're in it and it feels awful. But throughout scripture and just if you look back on your life, that's why it's important to go back and remember things. God always brings us out on the other side, and it is 10 times better. Always, always, no matter what circumstance change does or doesn't happen. And that is what brings us joy, is that he will get us to the other side. And if it's not fully developed the way we expect it to on this side, it's always going to happen in glory.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's
we
really
just
good.
need that perspective shift.
We do. Yeah. It's a great time to get that shift in our lives during the Christmas season. Maybe taking some time to connect the good things in your life to the giver of those good things and finding joy in that. Maybe people who are in hard seasons right now, recognizing that God is good in the midst of it all, and his promises to you, especially his eternal promises, his grand promises, have not changed. And I like your idea of Sabbath too. Like, it's just that little taste of joy.
It's a great practice for all the things.
It is. Yeah.
God's so smart.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out
he knew what he was doing. Mm-hmm.
So I have something that might bring you a little joy.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to know what it is?
Sure.
So do you remember a couple episodes back where you found out something?
Yeah. Yeah, that like chocolate company or whatever that you had.
So I maybe have brought it with
You did?
I did.
I kind of forgot about that whole thing. I mean, I've just kind of waited. Like, I mean, I knew that it happened, but I've just kind of, it's like a Bible, a chocolate Bible.
Well, here's the reason I'm doing it here, because you told the whole world.
Yeah.
And didn't tell me that you found the secret out. And
oh my goodness.
You always find all my secrets. So I figured everyone should be able to enjoy.
Can I open it?
I guess so.
Do you want me to open it, or is it, what is it? What
well, you have to open it. Okay. So if people are listening, maybe you need to.
It says, I can't even pronounce.
I know. It's like a French company.
Chocolat Abiel.
We're going to butcher it. Someone's going to correct us.
All right.
Also,
and
this
it's
is
in
not
like
sponsored.
A little faux snakeskin Bible type thing. Okay. Oh, 12 days of Christmas. Oh my goodness. Of just like chocolatey things.
Chocolate, beauty, and goodness.
Oh my goodness.
They are the most beautiful chocolates I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Aren't they?
Turkish Delight is the first one. So 12 days of Christmas.
Yes.
When can you do this? Do you do it on the?
I mean,
on the 12th.
Our kids have their advent calendars, and they've already
for those that are watching
into
on
all
YouTube,
of them.
maybe you can get a little glimpse of that.
It's such pretty chocolate.
Wow.
So if you're local, it's a company in Bellevue that I found, and it is so good.
This brings me great joy connected to the goodness of God.
So now the question is, are we gonna share it though?
Wait, isn't it for us?
It's for us to enjoy.
Okay. What does that mean?
12 days
so
together.
Does that mean like we each get a bite each day, or do we rotate days?
Ooh, that is a great question.
Okay, all right. Well, we can talk about that some other time. These look amazing. Spiced chai caramel.
That one is for sure for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh my goodness.
There we go.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Can't wait to dive into that.
I thought everyone should enjoy that with us.
The culmination of the story, my confession.
Yes.
And your great gift. This is great. Love it. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, thanks so much for joining us on When We Walk. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And I hope for all listening that this can be a joy-filled and hopefully chocolate-filled season for you. Thanks for joining us.